Hi there. Thank you for joining us today to meet Desiree Riniker. As you know, this is Main Street Market, and we're doing our Equi-Preneur series where I'm talking to entrepreneurs in the equestrian world. And really what we want to find out is how did they get started? How did they overcome challenges so that we may inspire our watchers and our Main Street Market fans to go for their dreams as well. So welcome, Desiree.
Hi there. Hello.
So tell us exactly the name of your company, what you do, and who you serve.
So the name of my company is Charleston Veterinary Staffing Solutions, and don't let the name scare you. We serve the entire Southeast, but we had our humble beginnings here in Charleston. But what we do is we reach out to understaffed veterinary clinics. So small animal clinics, equine clinics, mixed animal clinics that are suffering under staffing shortages. And we keep a roster of skilled professionals who meet all the qualifications necessary to just step into an understaffed veterinary clinic, whether it's large animal, small animal, just step in and meet their needs and take care of their patients so that their client experience and their patient care doesn't suffer.
That is awesome. I would think that would serve a huge need for people that have staff members that maybe go on vacation or need time off or maternity leave or just leave or, people, I mean, since COVID, people just, want to travel more. And so your company can step in with a trained tech or any kind of veterinary staff member and fill in those gaps.
Yes, that's what we do. And interestingly enough, in veterinary medicine, we're already on the brink of kind of a industry-wide, I don't want to say collapse, but we have a serious issue with staffing shortages and burnout and just our staff members leaving the industry. We have what the CDC considers the third or fourth highest rate of suicide in our industry, behind like military and police personnel. There's a really high rate. There is an initiative called Not One More Vet and Not One More Veterinary Staff. And the goal is to save lives. So while we're not directly affiliated with NOMV, we believe in the mission, and that's the reason why the company exists, is to try to tackle some of those burnout and overworking issues.
I love that. I love that. All right. So I get asked this all the time. Like, how did you think of the idea? So how did you think of the idea? I love to hear these stories.
So I had been working as a corporate veterinary practice manager for about 8 years. And prior to that, had 17 years in clinical work with working with patients of all types. And during that time frame, I always knew that I wanted to do something bigger and better. But interestingly enough, the idea for Charleston Veterinary Staffing Solutions literally popped in my head while I was driving down the road one day. I was just driving down the road and it was like, oh, there's this really neat thing. And it's a niche and it's something I could tell from my colleagues. I'm well connected in the veterinary industry, and I could tell from talking to a lot of people, we're all facing the same issues, but nobody had really come up with anything locally in our area to tackle it. And so the idea of Charleston Veterinary Staffing Solutions was born in my brain, in my car, driving down the road. I immediately actually went back to my office and I talked to my dear friend who was the medical director at the time. I said, I had this bright idea. She's like, that's brilliant. If I had money, I would invest in you right now. So it wasn't until about 6 months later that we actually got our LLC launched, but that's kind of how it was, just an idea born in my head, driving down the road and really witnessing firsthand what the veterinary industry itself was being subjected to.
The difference though, and I've talked about this a couple times when I've been asked to be a guest on a podcast, or, like, how did you go from the idea to making it happen? And there's the gap that most people fall in, that they have these brilliant ideas, because everybody does. Everybody has an idea, but making, getting through that or crossing that bridge to making it happen and having the courage to put yourself out there, because as we know, that's, it's tough. It's tough to put yourself out there and be like, this is my baby, what do you think? So like, I know you, so I know you're a lot like me. You're just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
go for it. But what was your biggest challenge in that process? How could, if someone, when someone's watching this, how can they be inspired by, because I think the perception is for anybody that's looking at someone who starts a business, like, oh, that must have been so easy. And I have people say all the time to me, like, oh, so you just don't really do anything. It just kind of takes care of itself. And I'm always like, no, but so, what was that challenge and how did you get through it?
So when I initially had this idea, it really felt like there was a mountain in front of me, and I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't say that it took a lot of prayer and a lot of faith and a lot of my husband believing in me. Now, is that necessarily the answer for everyone? I don't know that it is, but I banged down every possible door to get there and to get to the answers and to ask for the answers. I would say to somebody in my position who has an idea, go to somebody who's more experienced than you. Bang down every door that you can. For me specifically, I did some networking until I found somebody in my local church who was just so happened to be a business advisor. And the more I got to know Chris, the more I learned that Chris grows businesses. That's what he does. And he had been doing it for 35 years. So I landed in the right hands of the right person. So that's the first thing I would say. Those challenges in the beginning are insurmountable. Take it off one little bite at a time. One little bite at a time. Like the very first thing I did was at like 11 o'clock at night, filed my LLC with the Secretary of State on my own. I just did that. But then I kept banging down doors until I found the proper person who had more experience than me to guide me. I think that's what's the most important thing is, again, for me, not only that relationship with God and that prayer and needing to overcome those insurmountable challenges together with God, but finding a person who knows more than you and have them mentor you. He said, okay, next step is a business plan. So write a business plan, have somebody help you write a business plan, or even look online. You can look for a business plan, like a pre-canned template that helps you get everything out on paper and then helps you get to the next step. So overcoming those challenges in the very beginning was definitely not easy, but if you take it off in small bites, it can be accomplished. There's nothing that you can't do if you just put your mind to it and you look for somebody who knows more than you and you let
That's
them
so
teach
true.
you. Be
Yeah.
teachable. Be
Be
so
teachable. Yeah.
teachable. Be so teachable and willing to ask for help when you're stuck.
So I love that because it's looking for someone, and I'll just interject here because there's not always a person that is out there to do that. I did not have a person. So what I did, and I learned this from Sarah Blakely, who invented Spanx, because I follow her and I took her online masterclass. And she talked about like, you can Google anything.
Yes.
So for me, I downloaded books and podcasts on how to create an app, how to market an app. I have a background in marketing, but I aligned myself with people who had forged through. I listened to how I built this podcast. So I just want to say that because sometimes there's not a business advisor, and I don't want anybody to get stuck there. But if you can find somebody like you did that, is guiding you, that's awesome. But it's always looking for people to help you get through those, like you said, the small steps, because I think that's what people fall in that gap of not following through with their idea, because it seems like, how do I even get started? But like you said, the first step is filing your LLC. It's
Right.
usually, securing your domain name.
Yep.
And the way I always look at it, like, well, I can't do this until I do that. So those steps, and when you accomplish those, it's scientific when you start crossing those things off your list, the adrenaline boost and the dopamine rush of being able to accomplish those things does give you the confidence to go to the next step. So I love that. Okay. With what you're doing, what are you most proud of?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that I have become the kind of leader that baby Desiree, you know, 20 years ago when I was first entering the veterinary medicine would want to work for. And that was something that was really important to me, was to become the kind of leader that somebody else could look up to. And I've had countless staff members come back to me and say, you're the best boss I've ever had. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for prioritizing our mental health. Thank you for saving me from leaving the field. And they sometimes, if you want people to succeed, sometimes that means they have to move on to the next stage. And oftentimes they do. And I fully support and encourage that with staff members, but a lot of them come back. And so the fact that I have a lot of them that come back and that say, I needed to, it didn't go so well and I wanted to come back to work for somebody like you. I think that that's probably the thing that I'm the most proud of, is that I am the kind of leader that I would have wanted to work for, and that I've set an example for the next generation of people who, if they want to become leaders in this industry or maybe in another industry, maybe they, I don't know, maybe they want to go run a barn, a horse barn. And they want to, I feel like that's a second thing that I'm proud of, is I've encouraged and motivated and mentored people onto success, whether it's in the barn with my own horses and the people that I'm surrounded by every day, or my staff members. You're not a leader unless you're empowering other people to succeed. And so I think that that's one of the most profound things that I'm just so proud of, and so grateful that the people before me who helped me get here taught me.
That was so powerful. And you know what you really are saying that is that you've created a safe space for people to learn and grow. And like you said, I mean, to encourage them, go do your thing, but I'm here if you want to come back. I mean, that just gives me chills. And I think that says a lot for your company. You know, there's, like you said, mental health is such an issue in so many, just not in industries, but it's just everywhere, you know, with everything that with everything that everybody is dealing with. And to be able to be in what you've created, to be able to go and work, you know, for a vet tech, or I don't know the lingo, but for them to be able to go and work for a few months, and maybe they need to go take care of their mother, you know, like, or maybe they need to be available for their child, or maybe they just need a mental health break. Yep. But that you've created this business where people are able to do that. And also keeping the vet clinic, you know, to keep those businesses running smoothly. I mean, we all see it everywhere. We see it when we go into a restaurant and the staffing issues. We see it at, you know, in barns, people looking for help all the time. And you've really created a solution to that problem, which is, it's amazing how you are going to be, you know, how you have and how you will change future lives, you know, by being able to do that. Okay, so to wrap up, and you've kind of touched on this, but, you know, if someone said, if I will say, and I think you are already very inspiring, but if someone came to you, which they will, because they come to me, I've got this idea, how do I get started? What would you tell them?
Be teachable. Like I said earlier, be teachable and be willing to, whether it's banging down every door on Google, that like you did, and doing the research and being willing to learn and to grow. Utilize the resources around you. There are lots of, the SBA is a program that can help you get some funding. And I think the biggest thing that I would say is, no matter how hard it gets, don't give up. Somebody, actually a colleague of mine, said to me not too long ago, she brought the example in history of Cortez. And when they were about to, it was either fight or flight. And so Cortez burned the boats because he didn't want his army to flight. They were all in. They were 1,000%. And, you know, that has resonated with me. You have to be all in. You have to be willing to fight through the good, the bad, the ugly. Owning a business is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. It's hard. But burn the boats and be all in and be teachable, and you'll get where you're going. And maybe you won't get where you're going the first time around, but you'll learn something and get there the second time around or the third time around. My business advisor told me historically it takes people 2 to 4 tries before they're really successful. So like, don't give up. Bang down every door that you need to. If you believe in it, you're passionate about it, be teachable, do the education, and burn your boats.
I love that. And it's so true. And that the core is believing in yourself and your idea. And sometimes that wavers when things don't go as smoothly as you'd like for them to, but that belief in what you're doing and how you're serving, it certainly is what's carried me through things that I can't control. And I think you and I are the same in that, I can't control technology sometimes, like it just, things happen, glitches happen. And I always want people to be really happy. And, but sometimes I can't control that, but I believe in the core of the idea, which is exactly what you're saying. I love that. So tell us how, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? And also, what are your plans? Are your plans to stay in the Southeast for now? Are you planning on growing? So those two things.
So we plan to stay in the Southeast for now, and then probably our next spot into expansion will be into the Northeast. We're going to go as big as we can. I have some really amazing people in my corner who are going to help us grow. If somebody wants to reach out to us, I can be reached at my email address at Charleston VSS. So V is in Victor, S is in Sam, S is in Sam, VSS@gmail.com. And then we have a website, which is charlestonvss.com. And you can see a few of our lovely, wonderful, skilled staff members up there. We don't have the whole team up there, but we have a handful of them. Read a little bit more about me and some of our other leadership and how we run. And if you have any questions, they can certainly feel free to shoot me an email and reach out via the website.
Love it. And I will put those in the notes on this recording as well. So thank you so much, Desiree.
Thank you.
Your business is so inspiring. And I know that others will be inspired by your tenacity and your belief in yourself. And I know that, people are going to watch this and be like, oh my gosh, this is the best idea. I'm going to call her. So thank you again.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.